Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am here for another book review today. These snow days have been wonderful. It's given me a chance to get a lot of work done and film some videos for the channel. And today we are going to be reviewing The Name of the Wind, the first book of the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss. I promise I will get you guys a Lightbringer review soon, but I finished The Name of the Wind very quickly. It started a little slower when I was reading it, but by the end, I just couldn't put it down. And I really just wanted to talk about this book because mostly I loved it. This is, I just, there's so much to love about this book. Um, I will just start with it. I don't typically read a lot of prose-heavy books. Well, prose-heavy books. Like if you've seen my channel, you know I'm a big Sanderson fan. His prose aren't the most sophisticated, and while Pratchett does have great prose, it's more from the wit and the humor end than something more akin to how at least the authors that I've read, how Robert Jordan or Tolkien would write. Patrick Rothfuss definitely falls more into the Jordan or Tolkien-esque camp with how pretty he's. Like, I don't normally notice that, and I don't normally care. Like I said, I read a lot of Sanderson. I don't normally care as much about, like, how pretty the writing is, but, like, I definitely noticed it here in The Name of the Wind. Just, the writing was so, I don't 100% know how to describe it. I'm just kind of using words that I've heard other people use when it comes to writing, but it was just so well written, and I could just tell that from reading it. It's not just how well written it was. Pretty much everything about this book I enjoyed. It was a very unique style of how the book was told, like a fictional autobiographical account, very similar to Empire of the Vampire, which I reviewed on my channel recently. In addition to that, the characters I loved all of the characters. They were really well done. The setting, the world building was also super well done. The premise for how, like, the 3 days to tell his story, the settings and characters and stuff that we got to introduce to was awesome. Sympathy is a really interesting magic system. I thought it was. Once again, really, everything was just so well done in this novel. And I mean, like, this book, I won't say has great action. The action is few and far between, but the parts that are pretty good. But mostly, it's just reading through just, like, these beautiful, vivid descriptions of these characters, the cunning and the wit of our main character, and how he uses that to its fullest extent. Was just super, super enjoyable. I just loved so much about this book. Like, this is the second book I finished this year, Lightbringer, and then The Name of the Wind, and yet I can already tell that it's going to be one of my favorite books of the year, since this is one of the favorite books I've ever read. This is just so well done. I just really enjoy it. I'm really excited to start the next one. I can just tell that it's just going to snowball from here. What's happening and the things explored and the places that are gone to. In addition to that, I would just say, just even reading through just the interior dust jacket and kind of the premise of what's coming next, it promises so many amazing things, and it absolutely delivers on them. And then the cutbacks to, you know, where they are at the inn and the actual telling the story and the events happening there just leave you with even more questions, so that you're just as excited to get back into the story and figure out what's happening, how our characters got to this point. But overall, a phenomenal book, and I will see you in a second for the spoiler thoughts. Alright, so for my spoiler thoughts, I think just starting with the two main leads of the book is probably the best choice. So first, the main lead, Kvothe. I really enjoyed his character mostly because of the immaturity aspect. I think Rothfuss did a very good job capturing the immaturity and kind of the ways that as a young person, particularly teenager, Kvothe goes from, I think, like 11 to think like 15 or 16. He might be up to 17 by the end of the book. But he's getting up to, he's a middle to high schooler in this book, and I think Rothfuss manages to capture the immaturity and the way that being young and being a teenager kind of affects your actions and what you do and all of the things that you're doing. I think that, and just reading through someone who is incredibly intelligent, because I think that sometimes authors can get wrong, and people in general can get wrong, is that intelligence doesn't mean maturity. I know a lot of very smart people in high school who are not adults. They're not adults, and they may be smarter than some adults, but they're not as mature as those adults. And Rothfuss being able to capture someone who is incredibly intelligent. Like, Kvothe is a very intelligent person. He's skilled in music, he is smart, he has a great memory, he's able to pick up and learn things very quickly, but he's still a teenager, and he still makes the impulsive actions and mistakes that teenagers make, and Rothfuss treats him like a teenager despite his intelligence. He's not just like a small adult, right? He's smart like an adult, so he's a small adult? No, he's a teenager who has adult level intelligence, but still makes the mistakes. And I enjoyed that about Kvothe's character, is that he still makes the mistakes that you would see from a teenage protagonist, despite having that intelligence. The intelligence also, that's the intelligence part, but the charisma also makes him an incredibly enjoyable character to read. Just the fact that he's able to get along with most people pretty quickly is just a lot of fun. It's a skill that I think a lot of people wish they had, particularly just being able to talk to people and just be good at talking to people. And that was enjoyable just to see how well he was at that. And one other aspect of Kvothe's character that I particularly loved is how is kind of his poverty, and how he grapples with that and deals with that, and how that puts another struggle on his story. It's the story of a kid who's going to a magical school. I've read a number of those, but he's broke, and so he has to deal with those additional issues. The times that he was begging and stealing in Terabon, I think it was what was once again interesting. That extra level of interest, that extra level of complexity to his character was just interesting. And I just think Kvothe was a great. I'm excited to see how his character gets from where he is in this book, a smart and talented and bright, yet still young and impulsive teenager who's struggling financially, and how he gets to the point where this innkeeper at the inn, all of these adventures, how that shaped him into who he is. And then I guess the modern Kode, as I don't know how to pronounce that, Kode that is running the inn, just his interactions I'll talk about in a second. The second lead, Dina, was another interesting character. I think that she's an interesting counterpart, an interesting love interest to Kvothe, and I'll be more interested to see how Rothfuss expands on her character in future books. Right now, it seems a little bit, she isn't as well fleshed out and developed as I assume that she will be, but even then, for what she works well for what she was, is this love interest and this kind of almost enigma that Kvothe's trying to understand how it works. And so, in addition, she's a great bouncing off point. They're both very witty, they're both very smart and charismatic, and so they can bounce off of each other quite well, which made their dynamics very enjoyable. I guess then going down to breaking it through the sections. The first section, it was a very good introduction. His time with Abermeen, Ben, and with the traveling with his family and the traveling showman was interesting. It was showing his young prodigy, showing kind of showing what he will become, kind of getting us introduced to the magic system. That's the introductory part. Moving on to Terabon was interesting. It was an interesting section, just seeing that shift from this very bright and talented kid who he's begging in the streets for 3 years. And just seeing that shift, that just everything, his entire life falling apart before eventually him crawling his way back out of the gutter and getting to the point where he can actually get to the university, which is kind of where the story actually begins. The rest is just getting him to that point. This is where the story actually begins. And kind of his just hijinks at the university, the successes and failures and the ups and downs while he's there, his conflict with Ambrose, getting thrown out of the archives, just these huge kicks in the gut for him. While he's smart and talented, university is just as hard, just for different reasons. Having to struggle to afford tuition and just never knowing where his next meal or where he's going to sleep next is just a huge obstacle that he's trying to overcome. And just kind of contrasting his perspective, and he talks about the end. Kvothe talks about that several times throughout the book, is just showing the different struggles, because despite his talent, he just doesn't have the resources that the other kids at the school have, and it's harder for him. Also seeing that finally he's in a situation where he doesn't necessarily understand everything. Like, he learns quickly, he learns fast, but he's now grappling with it. He is still a prodigy, but not to the level that he once was. And that requires him to slow down and move through the system differently. His conflicts with his teachers and his peers just continue to add interesting dynamics to his story. And then I guess the one other thing is the adventure out into with Dina to go find out more about the Chandran with the wedding. And it's interesting. It's like the very little bit of action in the entire series, and it's into the entire book, but it was enjoyable. It was a lot of fun to read through, and yeah, it was an interesting section of text. It was fun. Like I said, him bouncing off Dina was enjoyable, and kind of seeing where his problem-solving skills and his mastery of sympathy, where it's gotten him and what he's able to do at that point. But the highlight of the book, for me at least, was definitely the music. Just the attitude that Rothfuss took towards music and its impact, and the care and attention to detail that he took when it's talking about kind of building, when he talks about how music is made, and the scenes at the tavern, at the theater tavern, whatever it was, the Eidolon, just all of it, his treatment of music and its impact was amazing. And I think the music and that aspect of it was the highlight of the book, was one of the highlights of the book for me. It was just such an interesting perspective, and interesting perspective. I just really enjoyed those sections of the book. The times in Eidolon were really, really awesome. And then I guess another awesome part was the sympathy and kind of the learning aspects at the university. Seeing the different applications of sympathy is a very interesting magic system, and just seeing the applications of that in all of these different scenarios. The masters were they're diverse, and each of them has a personality that you can love and hate, and just how the university was designed and built, and all of kind of the dynamics and characters located there is just a really awesome part of the story. It kind of shows the diversity of this magical institution, and I think the world building there was spot on from Rothfuss. I don't have a lot to say about kind of the interluded parts where we're at the tavern and he's talking with the chronicler and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that we're going to get more of that in the following book, but for now, the chronicler and Bast, their relationship that's going on there was interesting, and I'm interested to see where that's going next. But all in all, The Name of the Wind was phenomenal. I have very few complaints of the book. There are parts that drag. I feel like it takes a little long to actually get to the story. Like, the story starts at the university, and it takes a little bit to get there. But beyond that, it's just a phenomenal book, and I highly, highly recommend The Name of the Wind. I'm excited to check out Wise Man's Sphere whenever that comes in from the library. And when it comes to my channel, I will bring you a Lightbringer review, hopefully this weekend, depending on how early we get home from the track meet. In addition to that, the next book that I'm going to be reading is Wheel of Time, Book 10. I think it's Crossroads of Twilight. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. And then we're going to have to see from there what I can find at the library, and just kind of going through my TBR to see what I can find. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more book reviews like this, and put books that you would like me to read next down in the comments below. Thank you so much. Goodbye.